Welcome to Shankar IAS Academy's daily current affairs analysis, and today's date is 11/12/2025. Please like, comment, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and please hit on the bell icon if you want to receive instant updates. And today we have pre-storming series for UPSC prelims test, and it starts on 14th December 2025. Please register, and the admissions are open now. You can also scan here to know about the admission process. And we have a few topics for discussion for the day. The first is about the stratospheric warning in the Arctic. The second is about Prime Minister Modi's "Your Money, Your Right" movement, and the third is about large language models using common free content available on the internet, and should it require a copyright. The fourth is the Right to Disconnect Bill 2025, and the fifth is the prelims focus of the day. Today's first topic of the day is about sudden stratospheric warming. Let us imagine the earth like a spinning top, and there is a lot of cold, frigid air which is above the spinning top. And now there is a stratosphere above the troposphere. So the stratosphere now is constantly warmed. Why? Because there is hot air which is transcending to the top and reaching the stratospheric layer, and it is breaking the cold frigid air into two, which creates the daughter vortex. Now, when this breaks apart, it causes a lot of breakages in the constant weather patterns that was already existing in the Arctic Circle. Henceforth, this is a rare early season stratospheric warming event in this December. So this should reshape all the winter forecasts. And let us look about its implications and why it is happening in detail. So as already mentioned, it is developing in the Arctic in the December. Why specifically in the Arctic? Because this is the place where there are a lot of mountains, and there is a lot of incidences where land and sea meets, and a lot of fluctuations happen in the Arctic region, and henceforth this stratospheric warming is directly related to the Arctic region and its implication. Now it's unusual because usually the stratospheric warming happens in the month of January or in February, but now it has an early onset in December, and the temperature in the stratosphere is rising sharply. Why? As I already mentioned, the hot air from below is reaching the frigid air on the top, and here it is creating a breakage in the cold air, and the warm air is getting mixed. So the temperature is rising in the stratospheric region. This warming is disrupting the polar vortex, as already mentioned. And what is the polar vortex? Polar vortex is the ring of winds, the ring of winds that normally traps the cold Arctic air. So let's see about the layers of the atmosphere. The first layer of the atmosphere is the troposphere, typically which is thick in the equator and thin in the polar region. It is seen from 0 to 12 to 18 kilometers. And here is where you have your passenger planes flying and hot air balloons rising, and the temperature is typically between 15 degrees to 56.5 degrees Celsius. And then we move on to the stratosphere. It is from 11 to 50 kilometers, and this is where you place your weather balloons. The balloon here are weather balloons, and why is it placed here? Because this is the cloudless region. This cloudless region is where you have a lot of weather balloons being placed to measure your climate or weather of the day. And next is the mesosphere. The mesosphere is the coldest region of the earth. Why is it cold? Why is it so cold? Is because you reach a height of up to 40 to 50 kilometers to 80 to 90 kilometers above the sea level, and the mesosphere becomes so cold that you see shooting stars here. Why? Because this layer is very, very cold, and when a hot object enters from the atmosphere towards the mesosphere, here you see that this mesosphere almost freezes the meteors, or it becomes a shooting star in that range. And now when you reach the 100-degree line, you have the Karman line, which is very, very important, showing that this has reached up to a point where all three layers, troposphere, stratosphere and mesosphere, end here, that is 100 kilometers from the sea level. Then comes the thermosphere. The thermosphere is typically from 80 to 800 kilometers, and the thermosphere has the auroras formation. How is it formed? It is formed due to the sun's magnetic field and the earth's magnetic field. When it comes in contact, the auroras form. There are two types of auroras, the aurora australis and the aurora borealis. And the next is the exosphere, where you have your satellites, spaceships, and it helps us in lot of communication. This is from 800 to 3000 kilometers. These are basic layers of the atmosphere. Now, what the sudden stratospheric warming causes? So, let's say that the temperature rises by 30 degree to 50 degree in days in the polar stratosphere. This disrupts the polar vortex. As already told, the polar vortex is the cold air trapping vortex in the Arctic region. The surface consequences depend on whether this disruption couples with lower atmospheric layers. In this case, there is a disruption between the stratosphere and the troposphere. When both of this is coupled, it creates a lot of consequences. And we have to talk about the Rossby waves. This Rossby waves are responsible for this stratosphere to troposphere interaction, coupling, and disruption causing mechanism, because these waves which are created in this particular region breaks the stratospheric layer and creates daughter vortexes. Now, December stratospheric warning is very unusual because it is a very early timing, usually happens in January or February, and this model show a major warning spike in the mid December. So at that particular region, because the temperature reaches there, hot air temperature reaches there, there is a warming spike present in that region, and the polar vortex henceforth will weaken, it will stretch or split, creating daughter vortexes as already mentioned, and it coincides with El Nino. So this complicates the predictions that were already predicted, and the low Arctic sea levels alter the atmospheric background conditions. Now the expected impacts are, this Arctic oscillation will turn negative, and the negative Arctic oscillation will bring in more Arctic outbreaks, colder blocked patterns, increased snow potential in certain regions. And henceforth, the regional impacts will be in eastern and central US. You have a higher chance of cold snaps and winter storms in January. And in UK and Western Europe, you have a potential for blocking, bringing colder, drier spells. And in Central and Northern Asia, you have a historically strong cold anomaly after stratospheric warning here. And now we are moving on to the prelims practice question. With reference to the sudden stratospheric warming, consider the following statements. Stratospheric warming is caused by rapid rise in temperature in the troposphere due to enhanced greenhouse gases. Stratospheric warming events can weaken or split the polar vortex. Stratospheric warming events often influence winter weather patterns in mid-latitudes. Which of the following statements is given above? So let's see. The stratospheric warning system is caused by a rapid rise in temperature in the troposphere. It's not troposphere, first of all, it is stratosphere. Both, it's coupled here, but it's not due to greenhouse gases. It is because the warm air here rises and there's this frigid air there, and when it comes into contact, the cold air descends and the warm air moves upwards. Henceforth, this statement here is wrong. Now, stratospheric warming events can weaken or split the vortex. Yes, it creates daughter vortexes. Next is the stratospheric warming events often influence weather patterns in mid latitudes. Yes. So the answer should be 2 and 3 only. Let's check. Yes, the answer is 2 and 3 only. With this, we come to the end of stratospheric warning and move to the next topic of the day. So the second topic of the day is your money, your right movement. There has been a staggering 1 lakh crore rupees unclaimed, lying dormant in a lot of bank accounts. And now our Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi is urging us to go claim that hard-earned money that is lying dormant, that insurance claim that is rightfully yours. And this is what we call your money, your right movement. Let us look at this in detail. On 10th December 2025, our PM Narendra Modi urged the citizens to participate in your money, your right movement. So, it basically enables us to go claim what our financial assets are, and even if it was unclaimed earlier, now it is urging us to go claim what is ours. So what does it include in this? The first one is bank deposits, the second one is our insurance claims, the third one is our dividend, and the fourth one is other any type of dormant financial holding. So the objective of this movement is that you have to write, they want us to rightfully claim what is ours, and the second is to have financial inclusion, and the public should be aware and transparent about the financial assets that lies around. And in a part of the broader government focus, it also wants consumer protection and financial literacy of all the people around us. And henceforth, there are a lot of key features. The first one is the government has certain verified platforms which shows digital access. The first one is it helps us locate our unclaimed bank deposits. The second one is it checks the pending insurance claims. The third one is it identifies what our unclaimed dividends are and how much is it, and our mutual fund amounts. So certain portals are encouraged for this use. The first one is Udgam portal. The full form is Unclaimed Deposits Gateway to Access Information under the RBI. The second one is Investor Education and Protection Fund Authority. This is for shares and dividends. The third one is IRDAI repository for insurance claims. First one is about the RBI's Udgam portal. This was launched 2023 onwards and was launched by the RBI as already stated. So basically, when people have unclaimed deposits in a lot of banks, this helps people search transparently about those unclaimed deposits. The second point is that banks must upload data on their unclaimed deposits regularly, so henceforth the linkage will be easy for the banks and the RBI. The third one is it covers the accounts which is classified as unclaimed. So for an account to be classified as unclaimed, it should be dormant for 10 years as per banking regulation. So next is about the IEPF authority. This was established under the Companies Act of 2013. So it administers unclaimed dividends, shares, debentures and maturity amounts. So citizens can file Form IEPF 5 to recover those dividend, shares, debentures and maturity amounts under the IEPF. The next is the IRDAI claim settlement reforms. This is basically for insurance. So it mandates all the insurers to maintain searchable databases for unclaimed insurance amounts. So any unclaimed amount is no claim payable for over 6 months after the due date. So let's move to the prelims practice question of the day. Consider the following statements regarding your money, your right movement. The movement enables citizens to reclaim unclaimed financial assets through platforms such as RBI's Udgam portal and IEPF authority. Yes, we are already seen this. Under RBI rules, a bank deposit becomes unclaimed only when there is no customer initiated transaction for 5 years. No, it's not 5 years, it is 10 years. Which of the statements given above is correct? Which of the statements given above is correct? So this statement is wrong, statement 2 is wrong, statement 1 is right. So the answer will be 1 only. Let's check. Yes, the answer is 1 only. With this, we have come to the end of your money, your right movement, and we are moving to the next topic of the day. So in relation to the next topic of the day, it's about the DPIIT recommendation on content for large language models. See, AI has been booming. For the past 2 years, AI has been on the rise and every common man has access to it. Now we have large language models which are learning content online. The message here is simple. AI can learn, but it must learn responsibly. So let's see what responsibility is this DPIIT talking about. It says that large language models like ChatGPT should be allowed to freely access the publicly available online content, but it has a lot of threats associated with it. It's saying instead of restricting data crawlers, you should create a copyright society wherein you collect royalties from large language models if they use your content. So, large language model developers do not use your content for free. Now, publishers cannot have an opt out mechanism, because if they have an opt out mechanism, they can say that large language models cannot use their content and cannot be used in AI training. This proposal is not yet completely enforced. It is open for public comment for 30 days. Now, India is trying to balance. How is it balancing? It is saying, yes, copyright holders, we see your concerns, because we see that you fear that AI companies will use your content without compensation. Now it's saying, AI companies, you have large amount of data to train models. Henceforth, both of you must create a balance wherein you access your public content for free, but royalty should be still paid, like similar to music licensing. So this creates a collective right management system. But the tech industry is opposing. It is saying that the claim of forced royalties is like a tax on innovation. Already AI is in innovation, it is making life easier, but why should we pay a tax on it? They argue that the scraping of freely available content should be allowed without paywalls or restrictions. They say that small content creators cannot enforce opt out, and henceforth the royalty system would burn out all the AI firms and will create an unnecessary burden. And henceforth, this opposition from traditional media publishers show that Digital News Publication Association has different concern. It is saying that AI will scrape content freely and publishers will be undermined because AI will give everything curated in one place. Whereas that one signatory of that one particular publishing or that one particular publisher. So this DNPA members, including the Hindu, have already sued OpenAI for copyright infringement. They want stronger protections, so their content is not freely mined. And henceforth, a proposed solution is that compulsory licensing framework should exist similar for radio companies which are playing music. And AI companies would play a statutory fee, that is, it would be distributed to content creators. And it is saying that the fees would be distributed in a way that factors of website traffic and social indicators are taken into account. So with this, we come to the prelims practice question of the day. In the context of training LLMs, the term data crawling refers to a process of manually feeding curated data sets into neural networks. Automated programs of extracting information from websites for model training, compressing data sets to reduce computational load, the evaluation of a model's output by human reviewers. It's not the evaluation of a model's output, it's not the process of manually feeding curated data sets, it's not compressing any data sets, it is automated programs extracting information from website for model training. This should be the answer. Let's check. Yes, the answer for the day is option B. With this, we move to the prelims focus for the day. So, with the next topic of our day, a revolution is hitting the Indian workplace. Why is it? Is because imagine your boss texts you at midnight. You have to respond. Imagine your office asks you about something on a Sunday where you're on leave. You're forced to respond. But if this right to disconnect bill 2025 comes into being a law, people of the organized workforce need not respond after work hours or on our leave days. So this right to disconnect bill is explained in this video. This bill was introduced by Supriya Sule, a private member in the Lok Sabha. She wanted to show that employees are entitled to ignore their work during their leave hours or after work hours, because after the COVID pandemic, we see that a lot of people in are in hybrid work culture and they're forced to adapt to it and respond to emails, respond to office work, and they have a lot of work stress after their working hours as well. So this allows employees to ignore those work communications outside their official working hours. So this addresses the rising issues of digital overwork, mental stress, and work-life imbalance. So if this bill is passed, we'll have work-life balance. This is inspired by a few countries, that is from France, Portugal, Italy, and Australia, which all have a similar law. So the core provisions of the bill is that employees can decline their calls. They don't have to respond to their emails, messages outside working hours. They can do so without fear of disciplinary action because the organized sector will get this as an official law. So, the firms must formulate clear after hour communication policies if this law comes into accord. And there's establishment of employees welfare authority. It powers to investigate the complaints related to this or impose fines if this is violated and conduct awareness programs on the same. And the applicability is that it is currently focused on private sector employees. We had recently seen the Ernst and Young case wherein Anna, a 24-year-old girl, was overworking and she um, resorted to take her life due to a lot of work stress and being an overachieving child from a very young age. This will help avoid and have a work-life balance, and the bill is needed in India because the post-pandemic remote work boom has blurred work-life boundaries. Even at 9 o'clock, you're forced to check your email because they consider you as having a work life even outside your office. And the rising cases show burnout, anxiety, and occupational stress. We also see that a lot of people are even taking workcation, that is, during vacations, they even work. So, this increases the occupational stress on a very high level. So, India lacks this statutory protection against digital overreach. So, this will actually help us. And there are a lot of global best practices that we see. The first one is in France. It was introduced in 2017. Any company that has over 50 employees has to negotiate with this disconnection rules, was with regard to France. With regard to Portugal, it said that the employees are barred from contacting employees after working hours, and if you violate that, you will be imposed with heavy fines. And next is in relation to Italy, which was in 2017 as France. This included smart working contracts. They had smart working contracts there. And with regard to Australia, we had that employees can legally include ignoring unreasonable after hour contact, and this was in 2024. And USA says that there is no nationwide law, but it is a stalled state level proposal saying right to disconnect is prevalent. There are some challenges even if this is implemented. Currently, it covers only mainly private sector, and there's ambiguity in what qualifies as emergency communication. So, if your boss texts you at 12 o'clock at midnight and he says it's an emergency at work, an emergency communication, the classification of what an emergency is very, very difficult, and there's a lot of ambiguity around it. Henceforth, to enforce it, you have to consider what the digital violations are and how to monitor it. And the employee resistance will be there in IT, BPO, and in gig economy, because we see that gig economies are all round working every day, and there is a risk of increased litigation and misuse by both the employers and the employees. In conclusion, the bill reflects the shift from an industrial labor law to digital age labor law, and it promotes productivity with dignity, workers' mental health, and sustainable work culture to be present in the present scenario. This is a global movement because we have seen the example of Italy, France, US, Australia, and a lot of other countries wherein this global movement will humanize the digital workspace. With this, we have a mains practice question. The right to disconnect is an emerging critical labor right in the digital economy. Discuss the significance of India's right to disconnect bill in the context of global labor practices and constitutional guarantees. 10 marks. So you'll have 2 pages. Right to disconnect is emerging as a critical labor right in the digital economy will be part 1. Yes, so you can even give a hub and spoke diagram and talk about how it is an emerging critical labor right. So you can have emerging critical labor right here and the reasons here, and this can be in one part of the page like this. And in this part of the page you can talk about the significance and the context of significance in the context of labor practices for one side, and the context of constitutional guarantee for another side, and then you can give the conclusion here and you can end it. Henceforth, you can finish the 10-mark questions. Please also send your copies to us, and we'll help you figure and give you proper feedback in regard to this question. With this, we are moving to the next topic of the day. So, coming to the prelims focus of the day, the first topic is the Saras Ajvika Mela. This is organized by the Ministry of Rural Development under the Deen Dayal Antodaya Yojana, under the National Rural Livelihood Mission. So, what is the aim of this? The aim is that we have a lot of middlemen who come in when a lot of rural women or self-help groups try to make their livelihood. This is basically trying to eliminate those middlemen and to gain their market exposure. If this comes into accord, it will equip them with the skills to upgrade their products, and they can keep upskilling themselves to increase their income, to connect with their buyers, and they can go from one geographical location to other, transcending the geographical boundary limitation. And henceforth, the Saras Ajivika mission is very, very important in the aspect of prelims. The second topic of the day is the third Australia India Education and Skills Council. This council was held in New Delhi. Why? What are the objectives? It is to strengthen early childhood care and education, and with strengthening that, you get mutual recognition in school education and build stronger teacher student development pathway. This discussion will shape India's ecosystem. You'll have new memorandum of understanding, letter of intent, and this will boost research in academia, and partnerships will be increased. Henceforth, it is very, very important to recognize the teacher-student relationship and build the pedagogy in Indian system as well. Henceforth, this conference will be very helpful for them. The third topic is the Admiral Cup. The Admiral Cup is related to sailing. So this is one of the world's most respected sailing championships. Across 35 international countries, you have people coming in and participating, and it's hosted by the Indian Naval Academy, Elimala. It is called as the Elimala. This aims to promote camaraderie, maritime cooperation, and mutual understanding. So, officers of other navies also have a camaraderie and friendship that blooms here. The significance is that it reaffirms that the event is growing in the international maritime community. So, with regard to the Admiral Cup, the most important point is that it is most important in sailing. And we come to the prelims practice question of the day. Consider the following statements regarding the Saras Ajivika Mela. They are organized by the Ministry of Rural Development and Deen Dayal Antodaya Yojana, National Rural Livelihood Mission. They aim to provide rural women and self-help groups a platform to directly sell their products without intermediaries. Yes, the first point is right. The second point is right. The answer should be both 1 and 2. Let's check. Yes, the answer is both 1 and 2. Please like, comment, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and thank you for watching. And we have come to a conclusion of today's video. Thanks again.